Hey guys, Boris last week from BK. Great to be with you. Another really great week of trading for all of us. Made some nice money in BK. We had some good calendar calls. And I got back from London and got very busy going back to scalping. And I want to spend the whole lesson today really talking about my scalping experience this week, because I think one of the key things I want to communicate is just how much of an art rather than science scalping is, where you really have to use a lot of different components whenever you're trading on a very short-term basis. So I'm going to start Wednesday night, euro dollar. This is around 2 o'clock in the morning. European session starts. I start my first scalp basically looking for my run to the 00. Euro looks a little weak. We cross the 20 zone. I get short off the run to the 00. And this is what happens actually. It's kind of very interesting in short-term trading, that I think you really have to have the right mental attitude in order to be able to succeed in this game. So we get to, like, I'm short around, I think, around 15. We get to about 01, 02, and the thing just stops and starts to stall. At this point, I decide, okay, I'm going to go to 15. I'm going to go to my original entry as my stop protection, because I don't want to lose any money on the trade. If it comes in, it comes in. If it doesn't retrace, at least I've sort of protected myself. All right, great. It goes back. Of course, it retraces me right back out. So I'm now net zero on the position. And then the price starts to move back down. And at this point, I'm like, hey, if it's going to break 3,600, it's going to break further. I'm going to get down on the break of the 3,600. So instead of getting mad at being stopped out or even, I simply adjusted my whole strategy and got short on the break of the 00 for a much shorter target, because I said if it's going to break the 00, maybe it's going to be good for 5, 6, 7 points, which is exactly what it was. And I took the first scalp there. Then everything started to turn around. We had the Greek government auction go off relatively well. It was a 10-year that went off that night. And the moment I heard that, I got long the euro. And I got long the euro, made my 15, 20 points off the news. And then I said, okay, this looks like it could be positive news. We're going to try to trade the session breakout off the news. Here's a perfect example where the news was early. This wasn't, I guess, market's time yet to break the session breakout. And of course, I got in there, and it stopped me out because the market just wasn't ready to trade. Next, we move into the 6 o'clock zone. And this is a perfect example of what I want to communicate, what not to do. So do as I say, not as I do in this particular case. I come back to the desk now. I left my house. I go back to the desk in the office. And I'm, of course, a little bit late. What happens here is I get to the desk to the office. I see that that actually, I forget which one of the ministers, somebody said that they're not going to, one of the German finance ministers said they're not going to support the euro, that the Friday meeting between Germany and Greece is not going to be any kind of a rescue package. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really negative news. I want to get short the position. But the news had already been released for this is a 15-minute bar, for 1, 2, 3 periods. And I get short late into relatively strong support. And of course, I get stopped out. It's a perfect example where if you don't have the right time, if you are late to the game, you're going to get burnt. It sort of goes to the old idea that if you're playing poker and you don't know who the sucker is at the table, you are the sucker. So that's my investments in euro for that time being. Let me just turn your attention to the pound that night, which was also pretty aggressive trading. So the pound that night, I had gotten short. What happened was I was very negative pound the whole front of the week, because the data on the UK was very negative, and I thought, you know, there's no way this situation in the UK is going to be positive for the pound, and I just kept shorting it off the tops. This was the first short actually. I woke up in the middle of the night. BRC numbers, consumer confidence numbers were very strong. The pound had spiked up way above its early levels, and I said, this is bogus. It's not going to last. I'm going to get short here with a stop above here. Went back to sleep, and of course, when I woke up about an hour and a half later, the pound had weakened, and I said, okay, I'm going to cover my short, because it really wasn't. It was an Asia session trade. It wasn't really my great trade. Then I go into basically trading around the 150 level, because here I see they're going to move it to 150. I'm going to get short the 150 on a break, and it's short from 150 on a break again. Then here's where it gets interesting. They get 150 level holds, and I start scalping actually against the position, because my attitude is if they're going to hold underneath 1480 and they're not going to take it any further, they're going to probably run it back up to 150. Again, playing around with my round numbers, except in the opposite direction than what I usually do, all around the pound. Now, all of this is relatively successful. Then we come to the actual event. The event that night is the PMI services number. And although everybody's looking for a very cold number, it actually comes out much better than expected. And this completely changes my whole mindset on the pound, because now I'm saying, hey, the economic data, which is supposed to be much worse, is actually much better. Now I want to have a long bias on a pound and be a buyer on any opportunity I can. So I get long initially off the break. I make my profits over here. Then, as you notice, instead of trying to short the position on the retraces, I get long in the position on the retraces and come back out of the position about an hour later, because now my whole mindset and the whole mindset of the market is completely changed. And that's the critical thing I kind of want to communicate here. The reason why I'm successful in the pound isn't because I have sort of, incredible great insight into what's going to happen next. It's because I'm trading with the flow. First, I'm negative because I know the market is negative so far. Then news comes out that completely changes the market's dynamics, and I get positive. And I get positive with the news and try to trade in that direction. But having said all this, let's get into my yen trades, which are kind of interesting, because then we have the ISM services number come out, which is positive. And I get long yen here, but this is where it gets really, really interesting. The data is positive, but yen is not responding. This is 15-minute chart. So notice that I'm sorry, back up. This isn't even ISM. This is ADP. ADP number is actually much better than the market thinks. It's basically bullish, which pretty much forecasts why the NFP was going to be bullish this Friday. But anyways, the NFP number comes out, and the yen is not responding. As you can see, it's actually just withering here on the vine, almost stopping me out. So on the rise into ISM, I noticed that this is very strong resistance for the yen at this point. This is 88.90. And I decide, you know what? I'm not going to wait for my 20-point target. If this cannot clear this resistance, I'm out of this trade, because despite the fact that positive news is good, the price action was not. And look what happens. I get out pretty much at the top of the move because the price action starts to collapse. Scalping is really an art of integrating news and price actions. It's watching both what happens on the screen and what happens on the chart. It's what's happening on the on your Dow Jones newsfeed and what's happening on the charts. And this kind of integration is critical to long-term success. I've already done a lot of trades here, so I don't want to bore you with any more trades that we did today. Let me just see. I'll show you one trade. Okay. Hang on. Let me just, I have so many screens here up that I just want to make sure that I'm, okay. I'll show you this one last trade. This was the trade today, just to show you where timing is really very important. So here we have today's NFP numbers. NFP numbers comes out much better than expected. It's negative, but the market was looking at minus 100, and it came out at minus 36. It's actually very bullish. I see this number. I get long the position the moment I can at around 90, 100, because I feel that the market is definitely going to start rallying. And sure enough, within 5 or 10 minutes, it rallies all the way up to 25. It retraces. I then unfortunately have to walk away from the screen because I was in meetings on the afternoon. But I would have been a buyer around this level because the news was positive. Just like in UK, the news was positive and the tone of the market had changed. One interesting thing here, by the way, there are a couple of ways you could have traded this. You could have simply been a buyer on the retrace, or if it broke the new highs, this was the session high over here, very bullish sign. As you can see, a buy here would have taken you all the way up for another 25 points. So the thing is, there is no guideline. There is no recipe for success here. There's only guidelines when you're doing scalping. When you're doing it, you have to integrate both the news flow and the chart points to make sure that you're in sync and you're managing your money as well as possible. Here are the last screen I'm going to show you, just to show you, yes, I did go crazy. Let me just scroll through all of this. Let's see if you guys can see this. This is all the trades over the last 3 days, a huge amount of scalping. Bottom line is, if you can see all of this, I can't even pull it out on my screen. There's so many trades here, I can't even pull the whole screen. Bottom line is, trust me on this, I did a little Excel spreadsheet, 125 points over the last 3 days, over probably at least 30 or 40 trades. So don't ever believe that making money in the FX market is easy business. It is a grind that requires flexibility, open mindset, and a change of course on a dime. Those are the key things that will make you a good scalper. This is Boris Schlossberg. I'm wishing you the best of luck trading. Next week, more trades at BK. Come join us, and I'll be back to you then.